At 78, ABBA's Benny Andersson finally confirms what we thought all along. For decades, ABBA has remained one of the most beloved bands in music history. Their songs continue to fill concert halls, movie theaters, radio stations, and streaming playlists across the globe. From the infectious rhythm of Dancing Queen to the emotional depth of The Winner Takes It All, their music has survived generations, proving that truly great songs never grow old. Yet behind the polished performances, glamorous costumes, and worldwide fame stood four ordinary people trying to navigate extraordinary circumstances. Among them was Benny Andersson, the quiet musical genius whose piano melodies became the heart of ABBA's unforgettable sound. Now, at the age of 78, Benny looks back on that remarkable journey with a perspective that only time can provide. He no longer speaks as a global superstar chasing another hit record. Instead, he reflects as a composer, a father, and an artist who has spent more than half a century understanding what ABBA really meant, not only to millions of fans, but also to the four people who created it. His reflections don't reveal a shocking secret or rewrite history. Instead, they confirm something many fans have quietly believed for years. ABBA's greatest strength wasn't perfection. It was honesty hidden inside extraordinary music. Long before the world knew the name ABBA, Benny Andersson was simply a young boy growing up in Stockholm, Sweden. Music surrounded him from the very beginning. His father and grandfather both played the accordion, filling their home with traditional Swedish folk melodies. Unlike many future rock stars who dreamed of fame, Benny became fascinated by the structure of music itself. He loved discovering how different notes could create entirely different emotions. Sitting behind a keyboard brought him a sense of calm and purpose that few other things could offer. As a teenager, Benny joined local bands and quickly developed a reputation as an exceptionally talented keyboard player. His breakthrough came when he became a member of the popular Swedish group Hep Stars during the 1960s. Often called Sweden's answer to the Beatles, Hep Stars introduced Benny to life as a professional musician. The experience taught him how audiences reacted to songs, how studios operated, and how success could arrive almost overnight. Yet even then, his greatest passion wasn't standing in front of cheering crowds. It was creating music that people would remember long after the concert ended. Everything changed when Benny met songwriter Bjorn Ulvaeus. Their personalities couldn't have been more different in many ways, but musically they shared an almost effortless connection. Benny naturally gravitated toward melodies, chord progressions, and arrangements, while Bjorn possessed a remarkable gift for storytelling through lyrics. Together they formed one of popular music's most successful songwriting partnerships, building songs that combined unforgettable melodies with emotional narratives that resonated around the world. As their creative partnership grew stronger, two extraordinary singers entered the picture, Agnetha Faltskog and Annie Frid Lyngstad, better known as Frida. Each possessed a unique voice capable of expressing both joy and heartbreak with equal conviction. What began as musical collaboration gradually evolved into two romantic relationships. Benny and Frida became a couple, while Bjorn and Agnetha also fell in love. Without anyone realizing it at the time, these four individuals would soon create one of the most successful groups in recording history. When ABBA emerged after winning the 1974 Eurovision Song Contest with Waterloo, very few could have predicted what would follow. Success spread with astonishing speed. Hit after hit climbed international charts. Concert arenas sold out across Europe, Australia, North America, and beyond. The group became a cultural phenomenon, unlike anything Sweden had experienced before. Yet behind every polished performance stood months of painstaking creative work, much of it quietly driven by Benny's relentless attention to detail. Unlike performers who thrived on celebrity, Benny found his greatest satisfaction inside the recording studio. Friends and collaborators often described him as endlessly patient when searching for exactly the right sound. A single piano phrase might be played dozens of times until it perfectly matched the emotion he wanted listeners to feel. Harmonies were adjusted repeatedly. Instrumental layers were added one by one. Every tiny decision mattered because Benny believed that great songs weren't built through shortcuts. They were built through care. That dedication explains why ABBA's recordings continue to sound remarkably fresh decades later. Beneath their catchy choruses lies sophisticated musical craftsmanship. Songs like Mamma Mia, Knowing Me, Knowing You, and Take a Chance on Me may seem effortless on first listen, but their arrangements reveal extraordinary complexity. Benny understood that listeners didn't always consciously notice every musical detail, yet those details shaped how each song made people feel. One of Benny's greatest gifts was his ability to blend happiness and sadness within the same melody. Many ABBA songs sound joyful on the surface, while quietly carrying emotional weight underneath. This contrast became one of the band's defining characteristics. Listeners found themselves dancing to songs whose lyrics often explored loneliness, regret, uncertainty, or lost love. Rather than creating simple pop music, Benny and Bjorn crafted songs that reflected real human emotions without sacrificing accessibility. Over the years, countless fans wondered why ABBA's music felt different from so much of the pop music surrounding it. The answer wasn't found in elaborate marketing campaigns or expensive production techniques. It came from authenticity. Benny has often explained that music became the place where emotions could be explored more honestly than everyday conversation allowed. For someone naturally reserved, composing offered a language beyond ordinary words. Through melodies, he could communicate feelings that were difficult to express aloud. This creative process became especially significant as personal relationships within the group grew increasingly complicated. Success brought enormous opportunities, but it also created relentless pressure. Endless recording sessions, international travel, interviews, television appearances, and constant public attention left little room for private life. Meanwhile, both couples within ABBA faced the same challenges experienced by countless relationships, only under the watchful eyes of the entire world. As the years passed, Benny and Frida's relationship encountered growing difficulties. So did Bjorn and Agnetha's marriage. What made ABBA unique and extraordinarily difficult was that personal heartbreak never meant the music could simply stop. Even after relationships ended, the four members continued creating songs together with remarkable professionalism. That ability impressed audiences worldwide, but also required extraordinary emotional discipline from everyone involved. Looking back today, Benny has never portrayed those years as a fairy tale. Instead, he has spoken with respect for the dedication every member showed despite personal pain. Rather than allowing conflict to destroy their work, they continued focusing on the music itself. That commitment produced some of ABBA's most emotionally powerful recordings, many of which continue to resonate because they reflected genuine experiences rather than fictional stories. For many observers, this quiet professionalism confirms something long suspected about Benny Andersson. He never appeared interested in fame for its own sake. While cameras naturally focused on glamorous stage costumes and charismatic performances, Benny consistently seemed happiest sitting behind a piano, concentrating entirely on the next melody. Even today, interviews reveal someone far more interested in discussing harmony, composition, and musical ideas than celebrity culture. Perhaps that explains why Benny's career after ABBA proved just as creatively fulfilling as his years inside the band. Instead of trying to recreate past success, he expanded into entirely new artistic directions, composing musicals, film music, orchestral works, and theatrical productions that showcase his remarkable versatility as a composer. As Benny reflects on his remarkable journey at 78, one message becomes increasingly clear. The greatest achievement of ABBA wasn't simply selling hundreds of millions of records or becoming one of history's most recognizable bands. It was creating music that continues helping people through their own lives, celebrations, heartbreaks, memories, and moments of hope. That lasting emotional connection may be the truest explanation for why ABBA's songs remain as meaningful today as they were decades ago. By the late 1970s, ABBA had become much more than a successful band. They had become an international phenomenon. Every new single was expected to top the charts. Every television appearance attracted millions of viewers. Every concert sold out within hours. To the public, it looked like the four members were living a dream that never seemed to end. But behind the scenes, maintaining that level of success demanded an incredible amount of energy, discipline, and sacrifice. Benny Andersson often found himself spending countless hours inside recording studios, sometimes working late into the night searching for the perfect arrangement. While fans only heard the finished songs, they never witnessed the endless experimentation that happened beforehand. Benny believed that every instrument had a purpose and every harmony needed to support the emotion of the story. If something didn't feel right, He was willing to begin again from scratch, regardless of how much time had already been invested. His partnership with Björn Ulvaeus remained a creative engine that powered ABBA. Their songwriting process rarely followed a rigid formula. Sometimes Benny would arrive with a beautiful melody waiting for lyrics. Other times Björn would bring an idea that inspired an entirely new musical direction. They challenged one another constantly, not through arguments, but through a shared determination to make every song better than the last. That mutual respect became one of the foundations of ABBA's extraordinary success. One of the band's greatest strengths was their willingness to avoid repeating themselves. Although listeners instantly recognized the unmistakable ABBA sound, Benny continuously explored new musical ideas. He experimented with synthesizers, layered vocal harmonies, orchestral arrangements, and innovative recording techniques that helped their music stand apart from other pop acts of the era. While technology continued evolving, Benny viewed every new instrument as another opportunity to express emotion rather than simply create fashionable sounds. Songs like Chiquitita, Voulez-vous, Gimme, 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 A Man After Midnight, and Super Trooper demonstrated the remarkable range of the group's creativity. Some songs invited audiences onto the dance floor, while others quietly explored loneliness, hope, or resilience. This emotional variety kept ABBA's catalog from becoming predictable. Benny understood that audiences connected most deeply with songs that reflected genuine human experiences rather than manufactured excitement. As the years passed, however, balancing artistic ambition with personal life became increasingly difficult. Constant travel meant long periods away from family and friends. Interviews, rehearsals, recording sessions, promotional events, and worldwide tours left little opportunity for rest. Although success brought financial security and worldwide admiration, it also demanded nearly every hour of the members' lives. For Benny, composing remained both his greatest passion and his greatest refuge. Whenever life became complicated, he naturally returned to the piano. Music offered clarity during moments of uncertainty. Instead of searching for answers through lengthy conversations, he often discovered them while writing melodies. That quiet habit became part of his personality. Friends frequently described him as thoughtful, reserved, and deeply focused, someone who preferred expressing himself through composition rather than public speeches. At the same time, the personal relationships inside ABBA continued evolving. Both Benny and Frida, as well as Björn and Agnetha, were experiencing the same challenges faced by countless couples around the world. The difference was that every development attracted public attention. Newspapers speculated constantly about their marriages, friendships, and future as a band. Rumors often spread much faster than facts, creating stories that the group rarely felt the need to answer. Despite these challenges, professionalism never disappeared. Even after relationships changed, all four members continued working together with remarkable dedication. Recording sessions remained focused on creating the strongest music possible. Their mutual respect as musicians survived even when their personal lives became more complicated. That ability to separate creativity from private difficulties remains one of the most impressive aspects of ABBA's history. Many fans point to songs from this later period as some of the group's finest work. Tracks such as The Winner Takes It All, One of Us, and When All Is Said and Done carry an emotional honesty that listeners continue to appreciate decades later. While audiences naturally wondered how much these songs reflected real experiences, Benny and Björn consistently emphasized that songwriting blends imagination with personal observation. Great songs are rarely simple diaries. Instead, they combine emotion, storytelling, and universal themes that allow millions of people to recognize themselves within the lyrics. Eventually, however, even the strongest creative partnerships reach moments of exhaustion. By the early 1980s, each member had begun considering different artistic directions. Rather than ending through a dramatic public breakup, ABBA gradually slowed its activities. There was no explosive final concert or emotional farewell announcement. Instead, recording sessions became less frequent as individual projects and personal priorities naturally took center stage. Looking back years later, Benny has often described this period with remarkable honesty. Rather than focusing on scandal or conflict, he has explained that creative energy simply changes over time. The excitement that fuels one chapter of life eventually gives way to new ambitions. Instead of forcing themselves to continue simply because the world expected more hits, the members gradually accepted that it was time to explore separate paths. For Benny, that decision reflected artistic integrity more than disappointment. He believed music should always come from genuine inspiration. Continuing only to satisfy commercial expectations would have compromised everything ABBA had built together. Although fans naturally wished the group would remain active forever, Benny understood that authentic creativity cannot be manufactured on demand. This perspective reveals something important about his character. Throughout his entire career, Benny consistently placed the quality of the music above personal fame. Awards, chart positions, and commercial success were certainly appreciated, but they were never his primary motivation. What mattered most was creating songs capable of surviving long after trends disappeared. Judging by ABBA's enduring popularity, that goal has been achieved beyond anyone's imagination. As one chapter quietly came to an end, another was about to begin. Free from the constant demands of international pop stardom, Benny found new opportunities to expand his creative vision in ways that would surprise even longtime fans. Rather than looking backward, he chose to discover what kind of composer he could become beyond the extraordinary legacy of ABBA. When many people think about life after ABBA, they imagine Benny Andersson stepping away from music altogether. But the opposite happened. Instead of slowing down, he simply changed direction. Without the constant demands of recording hit singles and touring the world, he finally had the freedom to explore projects that had fascinated him for years. It marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that proved his creativity had never depended on being part of a pop group. Together with Björn Ulvaeus, Benny began focusing on musical theater. Their collaboration eventually produced Chess, a musical that combined powerful storytelling with unforgettable melodies. Although it was an immediate worldwide sensation in every market, many of its songs earned lasting admiration, especially I Know Him So Well and Anthem. The project demonstrated that Benny's gift extended far beyond 3-minute pop songs. He could compose music capable of carrying entire stories, developing characters, and creating emotional journeys over the course of a full theatrical performance. Years later came another remarkable achievement, Kristina Fran de Vemela. Based on the famous novels by Swedish author Vilhelm Moberg, the musical became one of Sweden's greatest theatrical successes. Unlike the glittering image often associated with ABBA, this work explored themes of migration, sacrifice, family, and hope. Benny's compositions reflected both intimacy and grandeur, earning praise from audiences and critics alike. It confirmed that his musical imagination had continued to grow long after ABBA had left the recording studio. Despite these accomplishments, the public never completely stopped asking about ABBA. Every interview seemed to include the same question: would the group ever reunite? For decades, Benny answered with remarkable consistency. He appreciated the affection people still felt for the band, but he believed that some moments belonged to history. Rather than trying to recreate the past, he preferred celebrating what had already been achieved. That position wasn't based on bitterness. In fact, Benny often spoke warmly about his former bandmates. Time had softened many of the emotional difficulties that once surrounded the group's final years. Instead of dwelling on old misunderstandings, the members gradually developed a deeper appreciation for everything they had experienced together. Distance allowed them to recognize not only the challenges they had faced, but also the extraordinary legacy they had built. As the years passed, Benny also became increasingly reflective about the nature of fame itself. He had witnessed firsthand how quickly public attention could shift from admiration to endless speculation. During ABBA's peak, newspapers often focused more on relationships and rumors than on the music itself. Looking back, Benny appeared remarkably unaffected by the desire for celebrity. He never seemed interested in becoming a larger-than-life public figure. What mattered to him was always the work. That quiet attitude became even more noticeable as new generations discovered ABBA. Thanks to digital streaming platforms, younger listeners who had never experienced the 1970s began embracing the band's music. Songs that once filled vinyl records were suddenly reaching audiences born decades after ABBA had stopped recording together. Benny watched with genuine amazement as teenagers sang every lyric to songs written long before they were born. Then came another unexpected chapter, the success of the Mamma Mia! Stage musical and later the blockbuster films introduced ABBA's catalog to millions of completely new fans. Benny and Bjorn played important roles in bringing those productions to life, ensuring that the music remained faithful to its original spirit while finding fresh ways to connect with modern audiences. Rather than treating the songs as museum pieces, they allowed them to live again through new stories and new performers. Perhaps one of the most emotional moments in ABBA's modern history arrived with the announcement of Voyage. After nearly 4 decades without a new studio album, the 4 members reunited to record fresh material. For fans, it felt almost impossible. Many had accepted that ABBA's recording career had ended forever. Yet the reunion happened not because of commercial pressure, but because the members genuinely enjoyed creating music together once again. Benny later explained that returning to the studio felt surprisingly natural. The chemistry between the 4 musicians had never completely disappeared. Time had changed their lives, but it had not erased the musical understanding they shared. Sitting together once more, writing, arranging, and recording songs reminded them why they had become successful in the first place. The process wasn't driven by nostalgia alone. It was driven by curiosity and the simple pleasure of making music together again. The Voyage album received praise not merely because it marked ABBA's return, but because it demonstrated artistic maturity. Instead of attempting to imitate their younger selves, Benny and the group embraced who they had become. The songs reflected experience, wisdom, gratitude, and acceptance. They sounded like the work of artists who no longer felt the need to prove anything. The accompanying virtual concert residency in London represented another bold creative leap. Using advanced digital technology, audiences could watch realistic digital versions of the 4 members performing alongside a live band. Once again, Benny embraced innovation without losing sight of musical quality. Just as he had experimented with recording technology during ABBA's early years, he remained open to exploring new possibilities decades later. Looking at Benny's entire career, a clear pattern begins to emerge. Every major decision he made was guided by the same principle: follow the music rather than the spotlight. Whether composing for ABBA, writing musicals, producing orchestral works, or participating in Voyage, he consistently placed creativity above commercial trends. That quiet consistency may be one of the greatest reasons his work continues to inspire musicians around the world. Today, at 78, Benny Andersson speaks about his past with gratitude rather than regret. He recognizes that no career is perfect and no creative journey unfolds exactly as planned. There were moments of triumph, moments of disappointment, and moments of uncertainty. But through all of it, one constant remained: the piano waiting patiently for the next melody. Perhaps that is what fans have truly sensed all along. Benny never measured success by awards, wealth, or worldwide recognition. He measured it by whether a song could move someone emotionally. If a melody could comfort a stranger, inspire hope, or bring back a treasured memory, then it had fulfilled its purpose. That quiet philosophy explains why his music continues to endure while countless trends have disappeared. Long after fashions changed and headlines faded, the melodies remained. And as Benny himself has shown throughout his remarkable life, great music isn't simply heard. It becomes part of people's lives, carrying memories from one generation to the next.